Welcome everyone to TechSphere.
Yeah.
Today we're diving deep into the world of front-end frameworks for web development in 2024.
Ooh, exciting stuff. The choices you make here can really make or break your project.
Exactly. And to help us navigate this exciting landscape, we're turning to a fantastic article from TechSphere. It's called Top Front-End Frameworks of 2024 for Web Development. So let's jump right in. First things first, for those who might not be, coding wizards, what exactly are front-end frameworks?
Well, think of it this way. Imagine you're building a house,
Right.
The front-end framework is like the foundation.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. It provides the structure, the basic building blocks, the tools you need to create the visual part of a website or app.
So it's not just about making things look pretty.
No. It's way more than that. It's about how everything works together, how users interact with the site, how data is displayed, those smooth, intuitive apps we all love.
Yeah.
A lot of that is thanks to a solid front-end framework working behind the scenes.
So it's about functionality, user experience, the whole package.
Exactly. And the TechSphere article really drove home how crucial front-end frameworks are in today's digital world. With so much competition online, a seamless user experience is key to success.
Absolutely. A clunky, frustrating website. No one's sticking around for that.
Exactly. And a good framework helps you manage all those complex operations, leading to a smoother experience for the user and ultimately, business growth.
Right. So it's a strategic decision, not just a technical one. Now, TechSphere highlighted some key factors to consider when choosing a framework.
They mentioned 3 big ones.
Okay, hit me.
First, what kind of application are you building?
Okay, that makes sense. Different projects, different needs.
Right. Then, how easy is the framework to learn?
Yeah, especially for those who are just starting out.
Absolutely. And then this is the fun part, the earning potential for developers specializing in that framework.
Oh, the money talk. I knew we'd get there.
You know it. Okay, so diving into that first factor, the type of application. A simple website, for a local bakery, very different needs than a complex web application managing like a global supply chain.
Right. So what are some go-to frameworks for those different scenarios?
Well, for those big, complex applications with tons of features and data, you often see React, Angular, or Vue.js. They're robust and designed to handle that level of complexity.
Okay, the big guns.
Exactly. Now, for smaller web applications, something simpler, jQuery and Backbone.js are popular choices. They're lighter, easier to pick up, perfect for those more straightforward projects.
So choose your weapon wisely. Now, what about that ease of learning factor? The article talked about new developers naturally gravitating towards those frameworks that are, easier to get their heads around.
And who can blame them? Starting out with something super complex can be really discouraging. That's why frameworks like React.js, Vue.js, and Backbone.js are so popular for beginners. They have a gentler learning curve. You can pick things up quickly and start building.
Okay, so we've covered what kind of project and how easy is it to learn. Now let's talk money. Everyone wants to know about the earning potential. Spill the beans.
All right. So the Stack Overflow survey, which TechSphere mentioned, found that React.js and Node.js developers tend to command higher salaries on average. That's why React.js is such a hot commodity.
I can see why people are flocking to it. Okay, so now that we've set the stage, are we ready to dive into the specific frameworks highlighted in the article?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, first up, the reigning champion, React. The article called it out for being easy to learn and, you guessed it, its high earning potential.
React's popularity is no joke, and a big part of that is its use of reusable components. Imagine you're building a website where, several pages have the same buttons or menus.
Yeah.
With React, you build those elements once, and then you can reuse them throughout the project, saves you tons of time, and makes sure everything is consistent.
Okay, so it's like having a toolbox full of pre-built Lego bricks.
Yeah.
You can assemble them in different ways to create different things.
Exactly. And then it uses this thing called a virtual DOM. It's basically a copy of the actual DOM, the structure of your web page. And React uses it to figure out the most efficient way to update the page.
So it's smart about making changes.
Very smart. It makes even complex applications with tons of data or user interactions run super smoothly.
Sounds impressive. But even champions have their weaknesses, right? The article mentioned a few limitations.
Yeah, so one thing that can trip people up, especially beginners, is understanding JSX. It's basically a way to write HTML-like code within your JavaScript, can be a little confusing at first.
And it's not a one-stop shop for everything, is it?
Right. React is mainly focused on building the user interface. If you need to manage data or routing between pages, you'll need other tools and libraries.
So it's like a specialist, not a generalist.
Yeah, a UI specialist. So it really shines when you're building single-page applications where interactivity and user experience are paramount.
Okay, got it. So not the best for a simple static website, but perfect for something dynamic and interactive.
Exactly. And, if you're brand new to development and JSX sounds intimidating, maybe start with the simpler framework. Or if your project is small and doesn't need lots of complex features, a lighter weight framework might be more efficient.
Right. The right tool for the job. Okay, what's next on our list of top contenders?
Let's move on to another big name, Angular. Developed by Google.
Oh yeah, Angular, I've heard of that one.
It's known for being super structured and using TypeScript, which is basically JavaScript, but with extra features to help prevent errors and keep your code organized.
The article said it was the only framework based on TypeScript.
Yeah.
And it has that cool two-way binding feature, right?
Yes. So imagine you have a form on your website. With two-way binding, any changes you make in the form are automatically reflected in your app's data and vice versa. It keeps everything in sync seamlessly.
So it's like a magic mirror.
Yeah.
Instantly reflecting any changes.
Exactly. Makes development a lot simpler. That's why you see big companies like Microsoft Office, BMW, Forbes using Angular. It's great for those large-scale enterprise-level applications.
Powerful stuff. But the article did mention a steeper learning curve than React.
Yeah, if you're just starting out, Angular might feel a bit overwhelming. And for a small, simple website, it might be overkill, like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut.
Right. So again, the right tool for the job. What's next on our deep dive?
Let's explore Vue.js, often described as a blend of the best of React and Angular.
Ooh, a hybrid. The article mentioned it's gaining a lot of traction for being easy to learn and versatile.
It's like the Goldilocks of front-end frameworks, not too complex, not too simple, just right.
I like that.
It's got that clear, intuitive syntax, so it's great for beginners. But it's also powerful enough to handle projects of all sizes, from single-page applications to complex web apps.
Speaking of complex web apps, the article mentioned companies like Alibaba, 9gag, and Xiaomi using Vue.js.
It's got a lot of the features we've talked about already. Two-way data binding, a virtual DOM for performance, and it also follows that component-based architecture for code reusability, like React.
So it's got all the bells and whistles. But even Goldilocks had her bears. Are there any downsides to Vue.js?
One thing to think about is that while it's growing fast, it still has a smaller community compared to React or Angular. So you might have fewer resources and less support if you run into a problem.
And I'm guessing its relatively young age means it might not be as feature-rich as the more established frameworks.
That's a fair point, but Vue.js is developing rapidly. It's definitely one to watch.
So when would you choose Vue.js?
It's a great choice if you need something flexible and easy to use. It allows you to start small and scale up as your project grows, and it gives you more freedom in how you structure your project compared to something like Angular, which has more rigid conventions.
Okay, so each framework has its own personality and quirks.
Exactly.
I'm starting to get a feel for the nuances here. What's next on our deep dive?
Let's step back in time a bit and talk about jQuery, a framework that's been around since 2006.
Wow, 2006. Ancient history in the tech world.
I know, right? But it still holds its own.
What's kept jQuery going for so long?
It's incredibly simple and easy to learn, even if you have minimal coding experience. It takes common JavaScript tasks like manipulating the DOM, handling events, making AJAX requests, and makes them much simpler to code.
So it's like that trusty old toolbox that still gets the job done?
Exactly. While newer frameworks have fancier features, jQuery remains a valuable tool, especially for smaller projects or when you just need to quickly add some interactivity.
The article highlighted its usefulness for developing desktop-based JavaScript applications.
Right. Its simplicity makes it perfect for projects where performance and ease of use are top priorities. But, with all these new frameworks out there, are there any limitations to jQuery?
Yeah, spill the tea.
So jQuery's focus is on directly manipulating the DOM, and that can lead to performance issues in large, complex applications. Remember how React and Vue.js use those virtual DOMs to optimize updates?
Yeah.
Well, jQuery doesn't have that, so if you're building a massive, data-heavy web app, jQuery might not be the best fit.
Makes sense. Anything else to consider?
Well, while jQuery is great for simpler tasks, you might end up writing more code compared to those newer frameworks that leverage components and reusable structures. Think back to those Lego blocks with React. You'd have to build each block from scratch with jQuery.
Interesting. So while jQuery's longevity speaks to its usefulness, it's important to weigh those strengths and limitations against newer frameworks.
Absolutely. The choice depends on the project and your experience level.
Okay, so we've talked about React, Angular, Vue.js, and jQuery. What's next on our list?
Let's dive into Ember.js, a framework that really emphasizes convention over configuration, meaning it provides a well-defined structure and set of best practices to guide you.
Oh, so it's like having a blueprint for building a robust web application.
That's a great way to put it. Ember.js is known for its speed and its ability to handle complex applications with ease. And it also features that two-way data binding we talked about earlier, keeping your data and UI in sync.
The article mentioned LinkedIn and Apple using Ember.js. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. It's definitely a powerful framework. However, like Angular, it has a steeper learning curve. Its focus on convention, while helpful for big projects, can feel a bit restrictive for some developers, especially those who, prefer more flexibility.
So another one that's maybe not ideal for beginners.
You got it. It's better suited for experienced developers comfortable working within a structured framework.
Got it. When does Ember.js really shine?
It's an excellent choice for large, ambitious web applications that need to be maintainable and scalable over time. Think of applications that are constantly growing and evolving. Ember.js helps ensure code consistency and makes it easier for teams to collaborate.
Okay, so if I'm building the next big social media platform with a team of developers, Ember.js is worth considering.
It's definitely on the table.
Now, are you ready to explore a framework that takes a more minimalist approach?
Absolutely. Let's talk about Backbone.js. It focuses on keeping your code organized and maintainable by separating your application's logic from its user interface.
Okay, separation of concerns. I like it. Tell me more.
Backbone.js encourages you to think about your application in terms of models, views, and collections. Models hold your data, views display it to the user, and collections manage groups of models.
So it's all about structure and organization, like having separate drawers for your clothes.
Exactly. This modular approach makes it much easier to make changes and updates without affecting other parts of your code.
And the article mentioned Backbone.js being a good choice for smaller single-page web apps.
Right. Its minimalist nature means it doesn't add much weight to your project, which is great for performance, and it's relatively easy to learn, even for beginners.
But I'm sensing a but coming. Does Backbone.js have any limitations?
Of course. One thing is that it doesn't have as many built-in features as some of the other frameworks. You might need to write more code or use third-party libraries for certain functionalities.
So it's a bit more DIY.
You could say that, but that simplicity and flexibility can also be a plus, especially if you like having more control over how your app is structured.
Okay, so it gives you the basic building blocks and lets you build from there.
Exactly. Now, are you ready for a framework that's really shaking things up?
Always up for something new.
Let's talk about Svelte, a framework that's generating a lot of buzz for its incredible speed, small footprint, and unique way of compiling code.
Ooh, intrigue me. What makes Svelte so different?
Imagine you're writing a letter in shorthand, and then you have a friend translate it into perfect flowing English. That's kind of what Svelte does with code. It's a compiler that takes your code and turns it into super optimized JavaScript that runs directly in the browser.
Okay, a super efficient code translator.
Exactly. This means less code needs to be downloaded, which means faster loading times, smoother user experience. It also simplifies development because Svelte handles a lot of the complex stuff behind the scenes.
Streamlining the whole process, I like it. The article also mentions Svelte being SEO optimized.
Yes, which is a huge plus. Svelte's focus on performance means it can help your website rank higher in search results.
Every superhero has a kryptonite, right? Any trade-offs with Svelte?
Well, one thing is that it's still relatively new. So it has a smaller community compared to, React or Angular, fewer resources, less support available.
So finding solutions to tricky problems might take more effort.
It's possible, but the Svelte community is growing fast, and its documentation is excellent.
Okay, so when would you choose Svelte?
It's a great choice for building small to medium-sized web apps where performance is a top priority. That small footprint and efficient code make it ideal for apps that need to load quickly, even on devices with limited resources.
So if I want a website that's lightning fast and ranks well in search results, Svelte is worth a look.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've covered some heavy hitters in the framework world, React, Angular, Vue.js, and even the classic jQuery.
For sure.
What's next on our list of contenders?
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about semantic UI, a framework that really puts design and aesthetics front and center.
Oh, this sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I'm all about those visually appealing experiences. The article mentioned that it's relatively new. What makes semantic UI so special?
Well, imagine trying to describe a website layout to a friend. You could use all sorts of technical jargon, but wouldn't it be easier to use natural human language?
Yeah, definitely.
That's the idea behind semantic UI. It uses human-readable language in its code structure, making it super intuitive.
So it's like writing code that speaks human.
Exactly. And that makes it much easier for developers to work together when the code is easy to understand. Collaboration, maintenance, it all becomes smoother. Plus, semantic UI provides a ton of pre-designed UI components. Everything from buttons and drop-downs to more complex stuff like calendars and progress bars.
Okay, so it's like having a fully stocked kitchen. You don't have to start from scratch every time you want to cook something.
Exactly. But every framework has its trade-offs.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a perfect framework, right?
Right. Being a newer framework, it does have a smaller community compared to the giants like React or Angular. Fewer resources, less support if you run into a problem.
And I'm thinking its focus on the visual side might mean it's not as strong when it comes to the complex logic behind a web application.
You're right. While it excels at creating beautiful interfaces, you might need to pair it with other libraries or frameworks to handle more complex features. It's like having a beautifully decorated cake, but it still needs a solid base underneath.
So semantic UI, great for projects where aesthetics and user experience are key, but maybe not the best fit for super complex, data-heavy applications.
Exactly. Now, are you ready to explore a framework that's been a longtime favorite among experienced developers for building those rock-solid, scalable web applications?
Bring it on. I love a good challenge. What's this powerhouse framework called?
It's called Foundation, developed by Zurb. And it's known for its advanced features and flexibility. It's like the Swiss Army knife of web development.
The article mentioned it being more suitable for experienced developers. What sets Foundation apart?
Foundation is all about performance and scalability. You know how when you're building a skyscraper, you need a super strong foundation to support all that weight and complexity?
Yeah, I get it.
It's the same with web applications, especially large ones. Foundation has a responsive grid system to make websites look great on any device. It has advanced UI components, it integrates smoothly with other libraries, and it's highly customizable, so developers can really tailor it to their needs.
So it's a bit like a powerful engine that can handle any terrain.
That's a great analogy. The article also mentioned that Foundation uses GPU acceleration. Can you explain what that means for our listeners?
Think about those action-packed movies with amazing special effects. They use GPU's graphics processing units to render those visuals smoothly. Foundation uses the same technology to make animations and transitions on websites super fast and responsive.
Exactly. It's all about delivering a great user experience. But since Foundation is geared toward experienced developers, what are some of the challenges for beginners?
Well, it sounds like it could be a bit overwhelming for someone just starting out, like trying to fly a plane without any training.
I think that's fair. Foundation's flexibility and advanced features do require a deeper understanding of web development. If you're a beginner, maybe start with a framework that has a gentler learning curve.
Okay, makes sense. So when is Foundation the right choice?
It's a great option for those large, ambitious web applications that need to handle a lot of traffic and data. It's flexible, customizable, perfect for projects that need that extra level of control.
Okay, each framework has its own strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah,
It's all about finding the best fit.
for sure.
What's next on our deep dive?
Let's talk about Preact. It's like React's speedy little sibling, designed for lightning-fast performance and a tiny footprint.
The article called it the thinnest and fastest virtual DOM library.
Yeah.
I'm all about efficiency. Tell me more. What makes Preact so fast?
Imagine you're packing for a trip, right? You could take a giant suitcase with everything you might possibly need, or you could pack a small, lightweight bag with just the essentials.
I'm definitely a light packer.
Preact is like that lightweight bag. Its core library is only 3 kilobyte in size, which is tiny for web development.
So it's lean and mean.
Yeah.
Cutting out all the extra fluff.
Exactly. It also uses a super optimized virtual DOM. Remember that copy of the actual DOM we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Preact's virtual DOM minimizes the work the browser has to do to update the page, so everything runs super smoothly.
The article mentioned Preact being a great choice for developers who prioritize speed, size, and performance.
Absolutely. It's also a fantastic choice if you need to keep the code base small, like for embedded widgets or applications that run on devices with limited resources.
Makes sense. But being a smaller, more specialized framework, are there any limitations to Preact?
Of course. One thing to remember is that Preact doesn't have all of React's features right out of the box. Think of it like that lightweight travel bag. It's got the essentials, but maybe not every single thing you could possibly need.
Got it. And being relatively new, it probably has a smaller community compared to React.
That's true. But Preact's documentation is excellent, and its community is growing quickly. Plus, because it's so similar to React, you can often adapt React resources and tutorials for Preact.
So it's like a shortcut for those familiar with React.
Kind of. So when is Preact the perfect choice?
Let's hear it.
When performance is your top priority, and you need something lightning fast and super efficient. It's also a good option for developers who already know React and want a faster, leaner alternative.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, from the big names to the up-and-comers. It's clear that the world of front-end frameworks is always changing.
It is, and with technology moving so fast, who knows what the future holds?
Speaking of the future, the TechnoStack's article emphasized how important it is for developers to stay up to date on the latest trends.
Absolutely. Choosing the right framework can make or break a project. It's like a chef needing to know about new ingredients and techniques to keep their dishes exciting.
Okay, before we wrap up our deep dive, let's do a quick recap of what we've learned about these top front-end frameworks.
All right, let's see. We started with React Popular for building interactive single-page applications. Then we talked about Angular Google's structured powerhouse framework, great for large enterprise-level applications. We looked at Vue.js, a versatile option that's both simple and powerful. We even revisited jQuery, that classic lightweight framework that still has its uses. Then there was Ember.js, which focuses on conventions and excels at handling complex applications. We discussed Backbone.js, that minimalist framework all about keeping your code organized. And then we talked about Svelte, an innovative framework focused on speed and efficiency. And finally, Semantic UI, which makes creating beautiful and responsive web interfaces a breeze.
Wow, that's quite a lineup. No one-size-fits-all solution here.
Got it. The best choice really depends on the project, the teams experience, the features you need. It's all about finding the right tool for the job.
And as you said earlier, this landscape is constantly changing. What's hot today might be old news tomorrow.
Right. So it's important for developers to stay curious, keep learning, and be ready to adapt to new technologies.
Absolutely. So for all our listeners who are interested in front-end development, what advice would you give them?
Don't be afraid to experiment. Try out different frameworks. See what works best for you. There are tons of resources available, online tutorials, documentation communities. Connect with other developers, get involved, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
That's great advice. And with that, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the top front-end frameworks of 2024. But before we wrap things up completely, I've got a question that's been bugging me.
Oh, what's on your mind?
We've talked about all these amazing frameworks that are shaping web development today. But, technology never stands still. What do you think might be the NXT big thing in front-end frameworks? What's on the horizon?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Predicting the future is always tricky. But I think we'll definitely see even more focus on performance and efficiency. Users expect things to be fast, and those frameworks that deliver will have a huge advantage.
It's all about instant gratification these days.
For sure. And I also think we'll see more AI and machine learning integrated into front-end frameworks. Imagine websites that personalize content, anticipate what you need based on your behavior.
Whoa, now that's next level.
Right. It's an exciting time to be in web development.
It really is. So to all our listeners out there who are passionate about web dev or maybe just curious about the future, we want to hear from you. Any thoughts on what the next big thing in front-end frameworks might be?
Yeah, share your predictions on social media using the hashtag #DeepDiveFutureTech. We love getting those conversations going.
And of course, if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and tell a friend about TechSphere. You might just inspire the next generation of web developers.
That's right. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing those boundaries. The world of tech is waiting.
And that's a wrap for today's deep dive into front-end frameworks. Thanks for joining us.